Certainly people, and welcome to the Triple Lock channel. So you want to ride a motorcycle? Epic, welcome to the club. But there's first few things that you need to take note of before you get started on your journey. First being first is what license category you will be going for. If you are 16, you will be taking your CBT, which is your compulsory basic training, and you'll be permitted to ride up to 50cc. If you are 17, you'll be permitted to take your CBT and you'll be able to ride a 125cc. If you are 19, you'll be permitted to take your A2 tests, which will then permit you to ride up to a 35 kilowatt machine. If you hold your A2 license for 2 years or you reach the age of 24, whatever comes first, you will then be permitted to ride, well, absolutely anything you like. Brilliant, so now you have your license figured out, you know what you're going to be training for. So next to start thinking about is gear. So starting from the bottom, we'll work our way up. A good set of ankle high supporting boots. Good set of either textile trousers or leathers, in case you take a tumble, very slide resistant, and they keep you warm. Next to think about is your jacket. Same thing again, either a textile Kevlar or a leather jacket with body armor and a back protector. Next is your gloves. Nice to have a bit of a tougher knuckle, but all round you want them to be protected with leather in case you take a tumble, because that was always the first thing that goes down when you take a tumble. Next we start thinking about your helmet. It needs to have a British standard kite mark on the back. There are many brands out there, so really do try them on just to see which one fits you the best. They're all shaped a little bit differently, but they all have the padding and foam inside to protect your dome. Okay, so now you've got your gear figured out. Now to start thinking about the controls. So if you'd like to come join me over by the bike, I shall show you around. Alrighty, so let's begin for the first and most obvious. You have the throttle and you have your clutch. Down here you have your gear selector. Now depending on the layout, but most motorcycles are push down for 1 and then push through neutral up to go into 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th and 6th. You have your indicators, left, right, push into cancel. So if we come around to the other side, you now have your rear brake and then you have your front brake. See, not much to it really, is there? So what I'll do, I'll just give you a quick demonstration on how to use these things together. So if you have a little bit of an older motorcycle, you will have a turn key to turn on the ignition. You see all the dials and everything lighting up. And then to start it, pull in the clutch, which is also good practice, and then you hit the start button here. Brilliant. Now, a lot of motorcycles will have a safety feature, and that safety feature will be if I pull my clutch in and then push my gear into first, oh, it turned off. Well, the reason for that is because of the side stand. So if I flick my side stand up, give it a little start, and now into first again. With your left hand, using the clutch and just finding what's called the bite point. And the bite point is where it just starts to move. And get used to where that is on whatever motorcycle you're riding. Let it out so slightly until I start to see it want to move. Pull it back in to make it stop. Once you are then used to your bite point, then you can start to think of adding a little throttle. You don't want to give it a handful. Give it a handful, obviously it will zoom off. But this is where clutch control comes into it. So unlike a car, where you are encouraged not to ride or use the bite, on a motorcycle you are. It will do far less harm to your clutch than it ever will in a car. So, get used to feeling that clutch. When you feel that start to bite and roll, you can start to release it more and add a little bit of throttle. You want to slow it down, Just use the back brake and the bike point to just control it. You needn't give it a handful of throttle, otherwise you'll do this. Now, until you can control that, there's no point doing it, because you need to know how to slow down and stop. Which brings me to my next point. Using that back brake means you can allow yourself to up the revs on the throttle whilst using that bike point, and you can control it better without it bogging down. So using that rear brake I really can't emphasize using this rear brake enough. It's probably the most handy tool. Combine all three together, it makes a perfect mixture. To recap, get used to feeling that clutch until you feel it start to move, keeping that right foot up on that foot peg on the rear brake. So you're always ready to use it, which comes increasingly handy when you are ready to stop. So let's just say that you've stopped at a traffic lights and a car's come up behind you and given you a little bump. I hope it doesn't happen, but if it does, you have half the chance of it not shunting you forward so far just from keeping that foot ready on the brake. You have your left foot down to keep your balance. The bike will always, if you keep the bike as perpendicular and centered as possible, it will always stay balanced. So, to recap, use your clutch, little bit of throttle until you feel it start to move, keeping that foot on your rear brake. There we go. So now we're completely off the clutch, just using rear brake and throttle. Okay, so now I need to start controlling this a bit better. So to the bite again on your clutch, I can up the revs, increasing a bit more rear brake just so we can smoothly maneuver, and then we can flick it the other way. So I really can't emphasize using this rear brake enough. Mix it with the throttle and your clutch, it is perfect harmony. When you're moving around a car park, and especially for your test, you'll be going in and out of the cones. You know, the better control you have with your rear brake, throttle and clutch together at the bite points, the much smoother it will be for you to maneuver around these things. Okay, so now onto the front brake. Now, you don't want to be using the front brake unless you're picking up enough speed to warrant using it. Also, if you're in a corner, the last thing you want to be doing is using this front brake to scrub off that speed. You should already have scrubbed off enough speed upon entry. But I digress, so we're a little bit further ahead there. So let's see a little example of using the front brake. So remember, clutch in, push the start, and away we go. So clutch out on the rear brake, and we can start to pick up some speed now. On the front brake, you're not grabbing a handful. If you can imagine yourself squeezing an orange, yeah, you don't want to squeeze it like this because you get orange juice in your eye. No. So what you want to be doing is imagine you are trying to squeeze the orange so you can get the juice into a glass, and you can count it like this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. And the same goes for your brake. You don't want to jam it on, whoa, because that makes things unstable. What you want to do is what we call progressive brake pressure, progressive braking. So the way it is done, hands at the ready, and you pick up some speed and just squeeze the brakes until you feel the forks to dive in, and then squeeze a little more. So it's like this: squeeze, 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 until you stop. Yeah. Squeeze, 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 until you stop. You don't want to jam it on. Believe me, I've had an accident doing the same thing, and it is not pretty or wise. So now we've done slow maneuvering and we've done front and rear brake. Now it's time to know how to change gear. Starting in first, pull off, toes underneath, clutch in, kick up to second, and then release. And now we're moving. Really wasn't that hard, was it? Now I realise what it's like as a new rider, that you get many experienced people say, it's not that hard, it's not hard. Well, of course it's not now, but it was definitely a point in time when we were learning to ride where it did seem difficult, where nothing was coordinated, your hands wasn't working as they should, and you do get to a point where you think less of the controls and more about, well, concentrating on your ride. Well, excellent guys, I'm going to wrap that up with this one. Please do drop a like and subscribe and let me know what more you would like to see, and please let me know where you are at in your riding career. If this has been helpful to you, excellent, and I will be doing more videos for you real soon, just a bit more in detail, along with a full Mod 1 mock demonstration. I'll lay out cones and things, and we'll go over each exercise one by one, just so you know what you're up against, and if you need something to go back to, if you haven't got the time, bike or area to practice in, at least then I can explain it to you a little bit better. Excellent guys, stay tuned and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.